Uh, so Ashley, the first couple of questions is, who do you think are the top contenders for the UCL title this season?
Yeah, I think there'll be no surprises for me. Obviously Manchester City are probably one of the main favourites. Obviously, started the season well in the Premier League, 4 wins out of 4. Obviously, won the treble last season and strengthened as well. People like Guardiola's signed and a couple of decent signings. And then I can't look past, obviously, Real Madrid with Jude Bellingham, and they've also started the season very, very well. In particular, Jude Bellingham, as we all would have seen him play for England the other day, and was probably the best player on the pitch. And then the other team that for me is a standout has to be Bayern Munich with the addition of Harry Kane. He seems to be forming a fantastic partnership with Leroy Sané in particular. They've started the season very well. And I think Bayern Munich were always strong. You look at their side, they've got fantastic players, fantastic attackers, good midfield players. And last season they were missing that centre forward. And now they've got him in Harry Kane. So for me, I'll be very amazed if one of those 3 teams doesn't win the Champions League this season.
Right. And we've seen a couple of crazy transfers this season. So do you think the Champions League's going to be as exciting as before without the likes of Messi, Neymar, Mane, Firmino, Benzema, Cristiano Ronaldo without playing them?
Yeah, I think most of those names, probably apart from Messi, were coming towards the end of their careers anyway. Ronaldo 38, Benzema, the best part catching him up as well. Arguably they may not have had a great season if they would have been at a European club anyway. We all seen Ronaldo struggle a little bit at Manchester United only 2 years ago. So for me, yes, great players, but things move on. Legacies remain. But obviously, it gives opportunity to other players. There's some really exciting talent out there, some young players coming through as well, and I believe it will be as exciting. It will be unpredictable, and it will have some fantastic games.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Next, we have Vivek, followed by Nityanand.
Yeah, thank you, Gaudima. Hi, hello, Mr. Garcia. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I've been brilliant. Thank you for asking. So, touching upon what you just added, do you think Bayern Munich have finally had the final puzzle of piece in bringing in Harry Kane to replace Lewandowski because God knows they've missed him, and you think Kane's addition to Bayern would bolster their chances of winning the Champions League once again?
Oh, for sure it does. He started very well. Sometimes it takes you a while to settle, but he seems to have settled in straight away, took things in his stride. Scoring goals in his first few games is magnificent for him. And also, I've been watching things in and around social media with him, doing things off the field, mixing with the squad, going having a German beer, if you like, having a German sausage, and really looks like he's embracing the culture. So I think that's going to make him even stronger. We all know he's a formidable striker. To get the goals he got last season in a struggling Tottenham side. I don't think many other players could have done it. And then he's also fantastic at that link-up play, which I've seen, when I mentioned before, with Sane. He looks like they've got an understanding a little bit like he had with Son at Tottenham, where Harry Kane can drop deep and provide those assists and those passes, those through balls, to use Sane's pace. So it's an exciting combination, and obviously we expect him to score many goals. So it's going to be. I think most sides in the Champions League will be fearing Bayern Munich because of Harry Kane and because of also the other players. You look at Kingsley Coman, Gnabry, Alphonso Davies, Kimmich, Goretzka. The list goes on. The striking power they've got is fantastic, and also Kane and Sane that we've mentioned. So they're going to be a good side. They struggled last season, obviously, in the Champions League. They've done well in the group games, but then it was a shock for me for them to go out so early. And I think they'll be looking to put it right. And obviously, Tuchel's had that pre-season under his belt now. We all know of his capabilities. So it's going to be, a strong side for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And I have a follow-up on that, if you will. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So you just spoke about how Kane has taken to life in Germany with Plum. Yes. And how crucial do you think for any countryman to, move off to a different country in a different league and embrace their culture? And especially Kane being English and him taking to the German culture as well because of all the history. How do you think that happened, and how crucial do you think it is for budding players to look up to that?
Yeah, I think it's vital. You have to embrace your surroundings. You have to embrace the culture, which gets you respect from your teammates. And if you don't buy into culture, you can be a little bit of a lone body. It's hard for you to mix. Then it's hard for the camaraderie to blend in the squad, and sometimes that can spill over into the football match. Maybe people don't pass you the ball at the right time because they don't respect you as much. When you've got cohesion and you've got team spirit, everything becomes natural, and that comes from really getting into the culture. I'm pretty sure he'll be learning the German language as well. He'll already be speaking a few German words, which also fellow players respect. If you go over to their country and start learning their language, that also helps as well. So definitely a big part of football. I've been at clubs before where foreigners haven't quite mixed and kept themselves to themselves, and they don't really perform to their full capabilities. So it's definitely important. And like I've said, Harry Kane's a very intelligent player and a very intelligent person, and I'm pretty sure he's mixed and he's got in and amongst that squad straight away.
Right. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Followed by Arya, followed by Parv.
Hey Ashley, how are you? This is
Thanks, how are
Nityan.
you?
This is Nityan from MIT. Actually, Mbappe or Holland, who is more pivotal to their club's success this year in the UCL? What do you think?
Yeah, obviously Haaland's goals last year was instrumental in Manchester City winning the treble. He started again on fire this season. He's already scored a hat-trick. We know he got multiple hat-tricks last season, and he's vital in the goals. But Man City they have other good players as well. They can play without Haaland. They just probably don't have as that cutting edge, that firepower. But we've already seen Alvarez score this season. Phil Foden's not quite got into the side fully yet. He's going to come good this season. They've obviously got Jack Grealish, Bernardo Silva. They've got many players that can get forward and score goals. But to be treble winners, you need an out-and-out goal scorer, and they've got that in Haaland. With Mbappe, he's the same. I think he's already got 5 goals this season already. You look at the PSG squad and you look at the players that they've lost. Icardi's left, Neymar's left. They're starting to, rely heavily on Mbappe. So I think Mbappe is more crucial to PSG than Haaland is to Manchester City, although he's still a huge player and Manchester City are going to need him. And then you look at other sides, I think Vinicius Jr. and Jude Bellingham will be, very, very important for Real Madrid if they've got any aspirations of going all the way. As we've already mentioned, Harry Kane will be vital to Bayern Munich. I just think Manchester City are probably the only team out of all those that can afford to have an injury here and there because the squad is so strong.
Okay. As we know that Messi and Ronaldo left Europe now, who else except Mbappe and Holland will look to challenge their throne as the best player in the Europe? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the ones we've mentioned, Vinicius Jr. for sure. He had a fantastic campaign last season. Very dangerous in attack. Obviously, Jude Bellingham is already settled, and he's going to be very important. He could look to be one of the best players in the tournament. And Harry Kane or possibly Leroy Sané at Bayern Munich if he stays fit and if he gels with Kane, which it looks like he has. For me, those players are the standouts. They're the ones that are going to be the trophy, difference players, if you like, the ones that are going to make the difference. I'm just trying to think if there's anybody else, possibly Rashford at Manchester United, but they haven't started that well. Lilau maybe at AC Milan, but probably Giroud as well. He's going to score a lot of goals for Milan. But I think the earlier ones, Kane, Bellingham, Vinicius Jr. are the ones that are going to be there or thereabouts towards the end that can really influence this trophy.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh.
Yes,
Do you
Arya,
think
go
that
ahead.
Do you think that PSG will be mentally affected in this season's UCL as they have lost many big names from the squad and Mbappe to leave the club as soon as possible?
No, I think I think it's better for PSG. You know, they were carrying too many superstars. They weren't functioning properly as a side. You know, when you play with Messi and Neymar in your side, you don't have anybody. Well, you lose two players defensively, and it leaves you wide open to attack. You know, we know Messi doesn't defend. We know Neymar doesn't defend. And that can leave you vulnerable, which is what happened to PSG last season. You know, they couldn't defend properly because to defend well in the Champions League when you come up against the top teams, you need 11 players to defend properly. You need to, you know, remain in your compact team shape. You can't have two people, you know, not pressing or not getting it back behind the ball when you lose it. And that's what happened with PSG. So for me, I think they'll be a little bit stronger as a team. Obviously, they have lost two world stars, as in match winners, who can score goals out of nothing. But I just think functionally they'll be better. And now it can all be, you know, set up for Mbappe to be the superstar rather than be 3 or 4 superstars. So I expect them to be a little bit better, and I would expect PSG to go through out of the group.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have a
And
follow-up?
do you think that... Hello?
Aryan, could you repeat that? I don't think any of us got it.
Okay. And do you think how far can Manchester United go in the UCL campaign? They have not been performing very well in the like the uh, in the start from the starting of the season. Do you think it can cost Eric Ten Hag's job if he fails to perform in the Champions League this season?
Sorry, Ashi,
No,
did you get...
Yeah, I got it. No, I think Manchester United are fortunate that the group fell quite nicely for them. Obviously, you look at their group. Bayern Munich is tough, but we know it's the top two that goes through. Copenhagen and Galatasaray. Galatasaray can be a little bit dangerous. Obviously, they've signed Wilfried Zaha, players like that. But you'd expect Manchester United to just have enough to get out of this group stage. Yes, they've had not the greatest start on paper, but they did put in a very good performance against Arsenal, and arguably, you know, they could have won that game if it weren't for the offside and a millimetre, and you know, it was pretty close, that game, and they gave Arsenal a good run for their money. They will get better as the season goes ahead. You know, they've had a tough time recruiting players, but I expect them to get out the group, and that should see them settle. And then obviously anything happens once you get out the group, it's all then down to the draw. But I'd be surprised if Manchester United don't go through in this.
Thank you. Let's have Aryav next, followed by Parv, and then Souvik.
Yeah, Ashley, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. So my first question is that now that the Ballon d'Or nominations are out and Haaland and Messi are the two clear favorites right now, who do you think is taking away the trophy?
For me, it has to be Haaland. That goal return last season, you know, broke all the records. Was it 5 or 6 hat tricks as well? You know, won the Champions League, won the Premier League, won the cup as well. You know, winning the treble. Yes, Messi has obviously won the World Cup, but you know, the stats and the goals, you can't look away from them. Obviously won the PFA Players of the Year award in England, and you know, I'd be very amazed if Haaland doesn't win that Ballon d'Or.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
So you've talked about Manchester City, Bayern, Real. Who do you think will be the dark horse in the Champions League this year? Who do you think is making that one deep run?
Yeah, it's a tough one, to be honest. I mean, I look at AC Milan possibly. I mean, that's not really a dark horse, but if you're going to say, can AC Milan win it against those 3 teams, you probably wouldn't say so. But they've started the season well. They've made a couple of good signings. Obviously, Pulisic from Chelsea's a good signing. Loftus-Cheek's a good signing. Leao and Giroud up front have started the season well. Leao's got a league goal already. Giroud's got 4. You know, goalkeeper Mike Maignan was in fine form in the Champions League last season. AC Milan kept so many clean sheets in the Champions League as well. Just came unstuck against Inter Milan at the final hurdle, if you like. And obviously Tomori, the young English central defender as well, was a big part in those clean sheets. So they've made a couple of additions, arguably a little bit stronger, and you have to pick somebody out that could win it, that you wouldn't think should win it. I would probably just give AC Milan a little nod.
Thank you.
Actually, I think we've lost the last 10 seconds of what you were saying.
I was just saying, the clean sheets that AC Milan kept last season in the Champions League. Mike Mannion, the goalkeeper, was fantastic. Tomori, the English central defender, played a big part in that as well. And I just think they've made a couple of shrewd signings this season, arguably a little bit stronger than last season. And they're unlucky to not progress from the semi-final against Inter Milan.
Okay, great. Arya, do you have another question, or should we move on to Parv? Parv?
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, mate.
For Man City to win UEFA Champions League once again, Erling Haaland will be crucial, right? So, how do other teams keep him quiet? Like against Fulham, he was quiet in the first half, and then second half he scored a hat trick. So, how do you think that other teams will be able to keep him quiet?
Well, I think Haaland, there's a couple of things that he obviously loves. He loves spacing behind. He loves making those runs and trying, to get threaded through to go through 1v1. So, if you are to try and stop that, maybe you need to defend very, very deep. So there's no spacing behind. So Haaland can't run in behind and hurt you. And then the other thing he's very good at is his anticipation and finding space in the box. So you just have to, coach your central defenders, make them extra. Everybody knows obviously what Haaland does, but it's stopping it that's the key. And you've just got to have full concentration, completely look for him at all times in the box, not ball watch, try and get tight to him, try and not let him get space, and try and not let him get across you in the box when those crosses comes in, and get body contact, because he's also very good in the air. So if there's a high ball, he can jump early, he can hang a little bit like Ronaldo used to do. And because he's so big as well, with that leap, with that hang time, with that anticipation, it makes it very hard to stop him. You all know, like I've mentioned, what you need to do, but doing it for 100 minutes, let's say these days, with the way the extra time is being played, as in injury time, you've got to be fully aware and concentrate fully the whole time. But it's nigh on impossible. Everybody's been trying to stop him, but he still keeps scoring.
Just a follow-up question. What do you think Haaland is missing in his game right now? He has every physical attribute, and yet there is something that is missing in his game. What do you think it is?
No, I don't think there's anything missing to his game. If you wanted to be unbelievably judgmental, maybe you can find a very slight weakness in possibly his link-up play. The way that Harry Kane drops deep and manages to find those assists. Because he gets turned and he threads through balls for teammates. Haaland doesn't do that as well as Harry Kane. But how can you pick a weakness with Haaland from his goal records? And he's only young, and he's tortured almost every single defender he's come up against. So I think it's ultra critical to try and find a weakness in Haaland, if I'm being honest.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have Sovik, and then we will ask the question for Kausav. Sovik?
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, mate.
This is Shovik from Inside Sport. I just wanted to ask about the Italian teams. Last time around, the Italian teams were dominant in the Champions League. 3 reached the quarterfinals, 2 reached the semi-finals. So, do you think they'll be ready for a season of domination again this time around?
No, I think they're strong, aren't they? Napoli obviously had a fantastic season last season, winning the title. AC Milan, I've already mentioned, their defensive record was good, and Giroud and Lilalo have started hitting goals already this season. They're going to be a worry for most teams. Lazio, I think, will obviously be the weaker of the 4. They'll come up a little bit short. Haven't got a massively fantastic squad. It's got an okay squad, obviously. Immobile up front, I can't really see with many other goals apart from him. So I think they'll just drop short. maybe possibly not get out the group, but certainly the Italian sides are good. They know how to defend. But Inter Milan last year gave Man City a real tough final. Certainly the first half they were very intense. They were very athletic, and they were in the Man City faces, and they were trying to press them, and they were stopping Man City play for long periods in that final. So they're strong sides, the Italians, and they're going to have another good deep tournament for sure. They're going to get. I would expect Napoli, Inter, and AC Milan to get out of their groups, and obviously that's 3 Italian sides then into the round of 16.
We'll have Kosov's question
Thank
from
you.
the chat box, and then we'll have Nityanan and then Pav in that order. So Kosov has asked, Ashley, India is heading into the Asian Games. Tough opponents. What is your take as far as the football in the country is concerned?
Sorry, can you just repeat that? Sorry.
India is heading into the Asian Games.
Yeah.
They have tough opponents. What is your take as far as the football in the country is concerned?
No, I mean, obviously there's been a little bit of nonsense going on at the current time, hasn't there? Are the team being sent? Are they not being sent? I've not really looked too much into it. I'm always a big believer of, as a coach, try and concentrate on coaching, or as an analyst, try and concentrate on analysing and leave the politics to the politicians to tell you, what's happening. But they've certainly got a tough group, that's for sure. I know they're in Australia's group in the Asia Cup, which is going to be tough. We've all seen Australia perform well in the World Cup, and they got out of their group, didn't they? And they also beat Denmark in the World Cup, which was a fantastic result. I think they're ranked something like 27 in the world now, I think, Australia. So they're strong, and they just put a good performance in. I see them play against Mexico the other day. They drew 2-2 away in Mexico on a very tricky AstroTurf pitch, and they're definitely a good side. And you look across the other teams in the groups, it's going to be tough for India, that's for sure. But what we do know of them at the current time is they are fit. They do play with good intensity. Igor Stimac has got them firing physically, that's for sure. And they've always got this Indian belief, haven't they? They've always got this desire, and they don't know when they're beaten, and they're going to be a tough side for anyone because they have got good team spirit, and obviously they've got a goal scorer in Sunil Chetri.
We have a follow-up question on that, but I request Kosov to keep your questions related to the Champions League. Anyway, the question is, what will it really take for Asian teams to make it big in the international scenario?
It's just repetition, just practice, more grassroots, more children playing. It's a long journey. You don't become a top nation overnight. There's so much infrastructure that needs to be underneath you. There's so many leagues that has to be underneath you. There's got to be multiple opportunities for children to play competitive football. The more you play, the more the practice, the better you get. It's as simple as that. We've seen the ISL now getting stronger and stronger. The I League underneath the ISL with the promotion has been making the I League competitive now again, and then eventually I think they'll bring in relegation, which makes the ISL even more competitive. But just more football, more matches, which is what's happening in India. But it just takes time. It's like anything; you can't become a dominant nation overnight. India's been very serious about football now for me over the last 10 years, and they've improved, but it's going to take at least another 10 years to start really competing with the top teams in Asia.
Right. Arya, yes, you can ask a question.
Yeah. So Arsenal are returning to the Champions League after a 6-year absence. So what are your thoughts? They've got Declan Rice. They have made their marquee signing of the summer. They have had a great start to the league. What do you think are their chances in the Champions? They've got easy.
Yeah, I think they've got a good group with Seville, PSV, and Lens. That's a favourable group. It could have been worse. PSV have started well, so we're not disrespecting them. They're a dangerous side that are currently joint top in the Dutch league. But Arsenal are improving. They've had this steady journey under Arteta. They've got better year after year, and that's all you can ask from a coach's perspective. Like you said, they've made a couple of key signings again this season. They are stronger. I question their squad and strength and depth, to be honest. If they are to lose an Odegaard or a Saka, I don't think they can afford to do that. So they do become reliant on probably the first 13, 14 players, if you like. But they have got a great manager. They've got great spirit now. They've got obviously a fortress in the Emirates Stadium, and they're a good side. You wouldn't put it this way: if I was a manager in the Champions League and I drew Arsenal in my group, I'll be thinking, well, that's not a great draw because they're a decent side. I think they'll go through the group. Can't see they're getting any further than possibly semi-finals. They're not going to win the Champions League in my eyes. But they're going to be they're going to have a say on who probably does, and they're going to hurt a few teams along the way.
All right, we are heading to the last round of questions. Aryan, yes, you can ask your question.
So actually,
Aryan, your voice is cracking up a bit. It will be better if you just send your message on the chat.
this month that Saudi Pro League
Aryan, can you kindly put your question on the chat? We can't hear you.
Sorry, actually, can you hear that?
No.
No. Aryan, can you
What
Aryan,
are your views on that?
Aryan, could you please stop for a second? We cannot hear you. Your voice is breaking. Could you just
Hello, am I audible?
type your question in the chat box? We cannot hear you. Your voice is breaking very badly.
Hello.
All right. Meanwhile, Nityanand, why don't you ask your question?
Sure. Actually, I just need your prediction. Who can qualify from each group for the knockout stages?
Yeah, for me, Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Group A. Seville, Arsenal, Group B. Real Madrid, Napoli, Group C. Inter Milan, Benfica, Group D. Atletico Madrid and Feyenoord, Group E. PSG and AC Milan, Group F. Group G, Manchester City and Leipzig. And the final group, Barcelona and Porto. That's for me would be, and if you're looking at who hasn't got through, Newcastle wouldn't make it then. Dortmund would not make it. Lazio, Celtic would not. Union Berlin and Braga wouldn't. PSV maybe is a little bit of shock not to make it out of that group, and I don't think there's any other shocks really for me. But they're the ones who I would believe would be the group winners and the teams that would miss out.
Okay, we've got Aryan's question. There were reports a few weeks back that Saudi Pro League clubs might play in the UCL next year. What are your views on that, as even the format will also change?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've seen quotes from FIFA and UEFA saying, they're not in Europe and only European clubs can compete. But as we do know, things can be changed. There's a lot of noise and there's a lot of finances going on in Saudi Arabia. It wouldn't surprise me if that happens in the near future. Would that mean, the Saudi teams would have to have a base in Europe for their home games? I'm not quite sure. But nothing surprises me anymore in football. And as an ex-footballer, we want competition. And if that means allowing a Saudi team in, then so be it. As long as they're good enough and they're competitive enough and they can genuinely compete for the title, then why not?
Thank you. Let's have Arya with his next question.
So now that you have mentioned the new Champions League format, so as this is our last year of the old format, the one that we have grown accustomed to, what are your thoughts? Is it a necessary change? Is it something that is actually needed in the sport right now?
I'm not sure. I mean, the competition's the greatest club competition really in the world for me. It's always been competitive, but we do know, football always evolves, football always improves, and people are always trying to look behind the scenes how we can improve it. So let's see. Let's enjoy this one for what it is. and then see when the rule changes come in, how that pans out. But for me, I've always enjoyed the format as it is. But we'll see. Like I said, football is always evolving.
Thank you. Aryan, do you have another question? But I would recommend you type it in. All right. Do we have any other questions? Okay. Right. Ashley, thank you so much for your time today and giving us all these great insights. I will let you know that we will keep troubling you through the course of the season, as it gets more exciting and, we see what's going on in the table. And for our friends in the media, thank you so much for joining us today. Ashley is a regular guest on our football shows across for UCL and, of course, Football Extra and Kickoff. So please do catch him and his insights on our network. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye all.